Hi, I'm Jim, and I'm here with my client, Cliff. Cliff is the COO of a media company that owns several radio stations across the country. Cliff, you remember about 2 years ago or so, you helped facilitate a full floor lease for our radio station opportunities?
Sure do.
What brings you back today?
Well, we no longer need this much space.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We've made some changes at the company. We've relocated our operating division and our sales divisions to Miami. So we need some space, just not quite this much.
Okay, how much space will you need?
Well, with a couple of small studios and maybe a half a dozen cubes for our sales folks here, maybe a couple of thousand square feet.
Okay. So let's talk about some options that you might be able to work to downsize to an appropriate size. First of all, do you like this particular building? Would you like to stay here, or is there any need to actually move to a different facility?
Well, there's no need to move for to a different facility. If we could actually work out something with the landlord to take smaller space at this building, that would work out just fine for us. But mostly, we're trying to eliminate the financial obligation.
Okay, so let's talk about the idea of a buyout.
Okay.
As I recall, we signed a 10-year lease. We're 2 years in, so we've got about 8 years remaining. If we look at things from the landlord's perspective, they're likely going to want us to contribute the present value of the remaining lease payments over the next 8 years that we're going to have to pay under the obligation of our lease. That could be a significant amount.
That would be a big number.
Yeah, that could be a significant amount of money. We could actually calculate that if I could get a discount rate from you or your CFO and come up with what that scenario might be. But do you think that they would be interested in a buyout?
Well, not if it's going to be that big of a number. Do we have any other alternatives?
Yes, well, there are. We could either assign or maybe sublease the property. What would you think about either of those?
Tell me about them.
Well, in a sublease opportunity, we would go out and try to find a tenant who would take a portion of your space, a portion or all of the space, frankly, and would pay us rent, and we would turn around and pay rent to the landlord. Interestingly enough, I've been tracking the market, and as I recall, your lease was signed at about $20 per square foot.
That's right.
And, you know, the current market now has gone all the way up to about $24.
Good.
So there's a spread there, Cliff, that it inures to your benefit, and if we could get somebody to pay $24, we would pay our landlord $20 and we'd pocket the other $4. Now, of course, there would be some expenses and commissions, TI allowance, and other retrofit because while you have beautiful facilities here, they are rather unique to a radio station, and your office facilities are pretty generalized, but the studios might have to come out, and we might have to fund the bill for that as well.
We spent a lot of money on those studios, and that's what I'm afraid of. It would cost a lot to take them out.
Yes, and I guess you probably wouldn't want to lease to another radio station competitor to come in and take all this infrastructure from you.
Haven't thought of that, but you're right.
Yeah, okay. So the other thing that we could do is we could possibly assign the lease where all of your obligations under the lease would be assigned to a third party, and then we go out and look for alternate space for you, although the landlord would have to approve that.
What's the difference between the assignment and the sublease? You explained the sublease. What's the assignment?
Cliff, it's generally, without going into the legalese, it's generally the assumption of risk of the performance of the outstanding lease obligation. So in an assignment, the new tenant would take over all of our obligations, where in the sublease, we still remain primarily liable, even if they don't perform.
Okay. That would be nice if we could do something like that. You also mentioned something earlier about subleasing, possibly at a profit, some extra money. What are the chances of that, and what determines that? And would it be possible we might lose money on this?
Yeah, they're all really good questions, and the answer is yes, maybe, and depends. So we're going to take a snapshot of your lease and compare it to current market conditions. Okay. And as I had mentioned, there's about a $4 spread that currently inures to your benefit. So if we can find another tenant that would pay the market rate for your space, we would be able to pocket the difference between what they pay us and what we're obligated to pay. On the other hand, when you go out to the sublease market, the sublease tenant knows that we're in a bit of a compromised position and may want to negotiate that leverage against us. So maybe we wouldn't get the full $24, maybe we'd only get 22, in which case there's still a positive value, but it may in fact be diminished. The other way is we might find that the market is not very good for tenants right now. We may need to subsidize in order to offer an incentive for somebody to come in and take over the majority of our space. So while we may not completely absolve ourselves of our current lease obligation, at least we'll mitigate a fair portion of it.
Well, that is a lot to consider. I'm going to have to talk this over with our CEO and probably get back to you next week.
That sounds great, Cliff. Let me know if there's anything you need, or if you'd like me to run a couple of preliminary spreadsheets, and I can put them together using some basic information as I abstract your lease and some financial information on the discount rate that I get from your CFO, and I'll look forward to seeing you then.
All right.
Really a pleasure. Thanks, man.
Thanks.